like to show you, as the title says, how I made this quite easy it's Beauty and the Beast themed cake, which, yeah, it's inspired by the movie which came out not too long ago. So yeah, let's get started. The first thing I did was I took off some old fondant decoration of a styrofoam, in Germany it's called Styropor, styrofoam dummy. It was completely bleached out because it was standing in the front of my cake shop where all the light hits it, so the color just bleaches out, which is quite unfortunate, but yeah, so I had to redo it, get a nice fresh coat of fondant on top so it looks nice in my window. So let's really start the tutorial now. The first thing I did was I colored my fondant in a very nice golden yellowy yellow color, and I think I used Wilton just plain yellow and a dash of ivory to make it very nice and not too lemony yellow, instead of a bit more golden yellow. So after I colored it completely, I'm rolling it out with some nice cornstarch on top of my table so nothing sticks. And yeah, just roll it out nice and thin because you don't want any extra sort of fondant on top of your cake, as you would do it on a regular normal edible cake instead of the dummy I'm using here. So keep it nice and thin and delicate. So roll it out and apply it on top of your cake. The height and the diameter of my cake I'm not really sure about, but I'm trying to write it in the description box below if you're interested. I applied my fondant and tried to make it very nice and even without any kind of pleats and folds, so it looks just nice and, polished as it should be. Cut off any excess because you obviously don't want that either. And after I was done with that, I took some of the rolled out fondant I already had, which was previously, for on top of my cake. I just cut some of the pieces away and took the longer and bigger pieces I had left over, rolled them a bit more thin. No, rolled them thinner, there you go, with some cornstarch underneath to make the swags, which are going around the cake. And for that, I'm using some regular straws. Yeah, I guess that's what they're called, huh? Some straws. Laid them down on my table and try to make them evenly spaced apart, and then I applied my fondant piece on top. I went through between the ridges to make them very nice and folded. Then I pushed my straws together so the folds get a bit more tight and you can manipulate them a bit more. And after I was done with the first piece, I made, I think, 6 more of them. And as I was rolling out the next piece, I left the straws underneath the first piece so it can dry a little bit and the shape is gonna be held a bit more nicely instead of pulling out the straws right away, which can cause it to deflate and fall back in its original shape, which obviously we don't want. So leave them in there for a few moments and then take out the straws and apply a fresh coat of your fondant. Or you could obviously use multiple straws, but in my case 4 of them were plenty, and this kind of method worked very nicely for me. Okay, so I did that 4 more times now, so I had 6 pieces altogether. And what I did after that was I divided my cake, so I have nice even swags, which are evenly spaced apart, and I just took some toothpicks and stuck them on the edge of my cake so I know where to glue my swags. But yeah, I think this is what works for me, so I just stuck them in there, and you won't see the holes in the cake after you applied the swag, so it's not a problem at all. After I applied my toothpicks, I took my swags one by one and I modeled them a bit more. I pinched off the excess fondant, which I didn't really need, so they aren't too long or anything. And then I flipped them over, applied a little bit of water, I think it was in this video. Yeah, I applied some water to make it nice and sticky, and then I stuck them on the cake. You could also obviously use some sugar glue, but I don't know, at the moment I just prefer some plain tap water. But see what you have on hand and then use tap water or sugar glue whatever works for you. I also know that some of my viewers use egg white to stick it on, and some use how do you say that, some sort of glucose. Yeah, just see whatever you have on hand and then just stick your swags onto your cake. I also, as you see right here, I trimmed some of them, then I pinched some of them to make them shorter again. So you just have to play with it and see what works, so they look very nice and even all together and all around. And then I applied all six of them around the cake.
Told you to walk away. That was my first and last mistake. I'm blue without your face.
So next part, I think, is my favorite part. I took some of my silicone molds, which you can buy pretty cheaply on Amazon, which I did right here, and I also took some luster dust in a pearl color, so nothing special, again, just pearl luster dust, and I dusted my silicone molds with the luster dust. Instead of using cornstarch or anything, I used my luster dust, so the fondant won't stick inside my silicone molds. And then I rolled out my fondant very nice and thin, so it fits nicely into my silicone molds. Press it in, obviously, then cut off the excess, and then flip the fondant out. And as you flip it out, you can see that all the luster dust is going to stick onto your fondant, which is, you know, perfect, because it adheres very, very nicely, but you don't have to use cornstarch, and yeah, it just works all together. It's a very nice trick I like to do quite often because the effect is very nice. Okay, so I did that obviously a few times, especially with the smaller cluster. I did that 6 times altogether, so I can glue that on top of my connecting points. And there you go, that's what one looked like. And then I did that with the big pearl, no, it's not a necklace, but the big pearl strand, there you go. And yeah, I applied that around the cake and on top of my, what did I say earlier? Connecting points, there you go. And that's where I wanted to show you how nice and pearly it looks. So yeah, there you go. So I repeated that step a few times. The long pearl strand I did around, I think, 2.5 times, and the small cluster of pearls I did 6 times, obviously, because I had 6 connecting points from the swags. So go ahead and do that, and we'll continue together. Okay, let's do the fun part, the very easy rose on top. And for that you obviously need some red fondant, which I colored with, I think it was Americolor in super red, but no, just take any kind of red food coloring, color it, and then roll it into a nice long rope, and then you cut equal pieces. It doesn't matter how big or small the pieces are, as long as they are all very nice and equal, because they are going to be the rose petals. You could obviously, as you see later, what we are trying to achieve right here, you could obviously do different sizes, but in my opinion it works the best when you have them all equal size. So roll them into nice balls, make them nice and round between your palms, then stick them between a freezer bag or anything, any kind of plastic, then press them down firmly so they get nice and flat and you have nice orange circles. And the next thing you do is take the side of your thumb, which I'm doing most of the time because that's what works best for me, and I'm thinning out the edges. So on one part of your fondant circle you're going to thin out the edge, so you have a very nice and delicate rose petal, because you don't want chunky big rose petals, because who want that? So make it nice and thin with the side of your thumb or the side of any side of your finger. As long as you make it nice and thin, you're good to go. So thin them out nicely, and then we're going to stick them onto the rosebud, onto the center. And for the center I usually just take a big piece of my red fondant and I'm rolling it between my palms and make it into a nice, in Germany it's called Kegel, into a kind of teardrop shape, as you see right here. so it's tapered to the top, very nice and thin. And then peel off your plastic wrap, and then you're going to stick all those rose petals onto the rose bud thingy. This is difficult, but oh well. Okay, let's continue. So the first thing I'm doing is applying 2 of my rose petals, and I'm trying to overlap them and then stick them all together so they come nicely together. And then the next round I'm doing is 4 rose petals, and as I'm doing that, I'm trying to man, this is difficult now. I'm trying to overlap them yet again, and what I'm also doing is, as I'm going, I'm kind of trying to make the petals look like they are blooming and opening, so they don't just stick up, because that doesn't look very natural. And after that, last thing I'm doing is pinching the whole rose between my pointer fingers, so everything gets squished nice and together. Then cut off the bottom, because you don't need that big of a chunk. And there, my friends, you go. You have a nice fondant rose without any kind of wiring or any kind of molds or nothing. Just, a very nice and easy rose you can make at home without any kind of equipment besides your hands, which you probably have. What I also did was, with my leftover rose petals, I took some of my modeling tools and I tried to make them like they have some kind of petal veins, because that's what rose petals usually do. And those leftover rose petals I'm using to let them drape down the cake, as so that it looks like some rose petals are falling down. So let them rest to the side. We're going to glue them on later. I glued on my rose now with some, as I said before, regular tap water, and let it sit to dry a little. And the next and last thing I did was, I took some green fondant, rolled it into a ball again, applied some cornstarch if needed when it's too sticky for you to handle. And I'm rolling my fondant ball between my palms to make it like a nice round ball. And then I'm trying to taper the edge yet again, so we have a nice little teardrop shape. And if you need, flatten it out a little bit more, use your fingertips to make it nice and delicate and neat. And the last thing I did was apply some sort of veining with my marzipan knife. And there you go. Quite sweet fondant leaf without any kind of cutter or special equipment. Yeah, that easy. The glass dome on top, it's just a regular glass dome, no sugar dome or anything. I'm not experienced enough to do that kind of stuff with sugar, so I just used some regular glass dome, put that on top. Then I glued on my last and leftover rose petals with some tap water. There you go. Make it so it looks like it's nice and falling and not flat on the cake, so it has a bit more movement, it looks a bit more real. And there you go. Put it on a nice cake stand so it looks nice and tall. And that's it. Pretty easy. I think the rose just is definitely the highlight of the cake. Let me know what you have to say. Write it down in the comments below. I'm so excited to hear what you have to say. Don't forget to subscribe, and until I see you next time. Bye.